These 4 flowers and leaves prints you'll see me jelly print and work out today. Hello print fans! This is a leftover of a plant that is commonly called silver dollar or silverling. It is a part of that plant that is not a leaf and not a flower. To understand that, you probably have to be a biologist. Anyway, it's a fascinating plant and I print it often. I've got some dried flowers, and this is like a skeleton of a hydrangea flower, which is fascinating. And these are the leaves of a plant that I have in my bathroom, and I don't know what it's called. As you can see, I dried many of them, and they have this fascinating structure because they're almost falling apart, which is showing later in these prints. I've ordered some new colors of the Distress Oxide pads because the last 2 that I made, I'll give you a link to the playlist here. They inspired me to work this out even more, and I think I'm getting better at this. So there's still a lot I want to do with this Distress Oxide, and I hope I'm not boring you. I am using the aged mahogany, which is really just a red, and the squeezed lemonade yellow, very bright yellow, and the rusty hinge, which is really an orange. You can see the Distress Oxide as well as with acrylics, and I'm very sorry that my gel plate is rather dirty. The dirt is on the other side, and yeah, but I should have put a blank paper underneath it for you to see better. So I'm taking the first print, the negative print, and then I decide differently. I'm using more of this indoor plant leaves, and I can still change that. Usually you can use the dried plants several times. Yeah, but some of them, when they're really like real skeletons, like this one here, they can fall apart on the gel plate. Like the silver dollars here, I had to pick it up with some scissors, tweezers. Again, you can hardly see anything on the gel plate for now, but this changes when you take the print. As you can see, it prints very well and very detailed. This is not enough for my liking though, so I'm adding something. Using a blue this time. It's called chipped sapphire. Fancy names. It's a blue. Using those leaves again and taking off the excess ink. This is interesting. So I'm adding these blue leaves to my print. And it turns out nicely as I wanted it. This was just a test for how the Distress Inks shows the leaves and the flowers, and I'm very, very happy. And now I want to do basically the same thing, but do a double exposure, so to speak. I'm using the blue, the orange, and the red, and just a little bit of the yellow. Please note that what I'm doing here is the shape of the pads I'm stamping on, that these shapes, I leave them as they are. You can go over it with a brayer and roll the paint out to make it even, but I wanted to work with the shape of the pads, and that's gonna be quite nice. So I'm doing a double exposure now, which is basically printing the excess paint on the paper that you want to use for the print finally, then taking the flowers off on one side and This is quite difficult, taking the flowers off with the right hand and holding it in place with the left hand, and so the hands are crossed, and it's and the tweezers and everything. Anyway, I managed to do that, and now comes the other side, taking the leaves off and taking that second print with the first together. That's quite nice, isn't it? I'm like extra happy that the flowers turned out so well, the leaves, and also the graphic design of the ink pads show really well. I love that. I'm selecting some colored pencils that match roughly the paints of the ink pads to work this out. If you don't want to see the workout and see the next print, you can skip forward for about 4 minutes. To give this some depth, I'm creating shadows of the leaves, imagining that my sun is always coming from the upper left side. So I'm making shadows on the right side. And I'm also strengthening a little bit of the outlines of the ink pads as a graphic element, which is very interesting in contrast with the natural shapes. And for the workout of the leaves, I'm using always the color that you can see in the background, because that gives a lot of depth, creating a sort of a see-through effect. And again, enhancing the graphic design with the blue pencil. To achieve even more depth, you always have to decide which square is below and which one is above. And first you think the silver dollar leaves, or whatever they are, they don't leave much of a design, but when you look at them closely, there's tons of things in there to see and to work out. And I'll show you this a little slower. As you can see, you can erase parts of the Distress Oxide ink, but it's like the effect is not so strong. So if you want a real highlight, I'd rather use a white pencil. Note that I'm giving the objects here a cast shadow, basically a cast shadow, and not too much of their own shadows, because that will be different in the workout of the other print. And now I'm cutting this one out because all these little misprints, so to speak, these little triangles of missing color, I want to enhance that. I'm cutting out the triangles as well. So this has a wonderful shape. And I'm creating an additional darker rim, always in the color that you see on that edge there, of course. And this will also enhance the little missing triangles. And I want the 4 edges to be round. And this is it. I'm showing this on a dark surface so you can see the edges. And I like it a lot. I'm quite happy about this one. I'm also working out this one now, although this was only a test. And here you can see the difference is working out the shadows of the objects themselves. And I'm not leaving any cast shadows in this case. So that's quite a different effect, but it also gives depth. I'm quite happy that in this case, the hydrangea flower The little skeleton flower is the star of the show. So I'm working this out extra detailed. No exciting extra effects, but I like the simplicity of this one. Next, you'll see me print and work out this one. I dried 2 hydrangeas, complete with the leaves and the stems, and I think it's amazing how they still keep the color. But that is not important because this is going to be our black and white print. The oxide is called black soot. Very grungy. I think that's why they're giving them these fancy names for the grungy people. Like me. I feel so gothic. And I have rolled out the oxide evenly. No graphic elements this time, just the flowers. Again, you can hardly see anything on the gel plate until you print it. Very good print, very detailed, and not grungy or gothic at all. It actually looks like a watercolor painting of a flower. There's little dots again that have to get shadows, and all the little in between the open spaces of the dried flower. I think it's amazing. This is what the Distress Oxide is really good at, I think. When you see the dried flower on the left side, it's amazing how I dried this, because all the buds are like, you know, open squarely and not crumpled at all. I guess it took some time to position them when I dried them. I'm coming in with a micron pen now, because I want some stronger contrasts. And the graphic element in this one is that I'm putting stripes for the shadows everywhere here. And I end up going around all the buds and leaves and giving them all shadows and stripes, hatch the shadows, and so on. So that's quite a bit of work for this one now, but I think it was worth it. I think the micron pen works really nicely. So I pronounce this one done, and I'm quite happy. It's like a very realistic, very detailed drawing. And the last one for today is how I made this print and turned it into this artwork. The magic of deli paper. I can't tell you exactly how the deli paper works. First I thought it just doesn't pick up so much wetness of the paint, and that's why it creates these shapes. But when I did this with the Distress Oxide, I can see, can you see that? It just closes on the air bubbles there. And this is actually, when you pull it off, what makes these little halos that I like so much. You'll see it in a minute. Great example for that. All these halos, they are just so fascinating, and I always work them out. I don't know if it's okay to call them halos, it's just what I call them. Another good example of the delicacy of the half-rotten hydrangeas. And here I am being morbid again. Sorry. There's a funny shape on the left there. It's a little bit like a sausage. And this shape, nobody knows where it came from. But I'm working it out. And this is what keeps me addicted to the gel plate and the deli paper. I lost the outline of the flower there, so I'm using the real flower to find it again. And there's a time where you have to find the outside of the stem with its halos and with its outline. So I'm trying this. I'm using the pad like I'm picking up ink with a brush. And I'm making those shadows here. And it's, well, I don't know. I like the work with the pencil better. You have more control and it's a little faster. You see my hand. This is actually what I always wanted to tell you. The Distress Oxide is very bad to get it off the hands, I have to say. So you might want to wear gloves. Yeah, this is the stem. And the outside of the stem, I want to make the areas darker. And I want to show you one picture that I made with the halos and where I worked the halos out a lot. And it's just two feathers and the effects of the deli paper. It's made with acrylic, regular acrylic paints. And you can see the halos here, and my problem is on the right side you can clearly see a bulldog. And I know what I'm talking about because I have two of them here. So I made a copy. I scanned this picture at this point to be able to work out alternatively a bulldog. But for this one, for the original, I really want a flower, not a bulldog. So I'm trying to do that. So I'm placing a lot of highlights here with the pencil. It's the white of the Caran Luminance series, and I think it's the best white pencil. Gives the most pigments. Again, there's a lot of details here to be enhanced. You know, I quite like it doing this, and has nothing to do with the patience. I'm just falling into some kind of a trance, totally relaxing. Now I have to work for the flower against the bulldog. Hard to see the outlines again. For the shadows, I usually use the same color as what's given there, but sometimes I stretch the blue into the red area and vice versa. Makes it a little more interesting. Now this is a real fun part. I'm creating water drops. And in case you think water drops must be round or oval at least, I think you can use almost any shape you get. You just need a highlight at the point where the light is coming from, and in the opposite corner you need a ring of light. And also you have to give these water drops a cast shadow. It's very easy. Here I'm doing a color mixed water drop. I just love that. I think I did a little too many on this one. I couldn't keep myself from doing that. And no, they are not ears. These are just halos, an echo of the plant. Again, I'm enhancing the structures of the square pads. I think that's extra nice combined with the water drops. I need something like a center of gravity in this painting. And so I'm making a lot of these areas dark. It gives it depth. You can see the flowers better and some gravity. And on the right side, the dark background has to be red, of course. Smuggled in 3 more water drops here, tiny ones. Another strange water drop here, and I'm even mixing the red and the blue with it. And I call it done. As you can clearly see, it's not a bulldog anymore. It's a bulldog that sits behind a flower. Well, that's it for today. Here are the other 3 again. I hope you had some fun, and I hope you give the Distress Oxide a chance and try it. Because the more I try things with it, the happier it makes me. And tell me what you think in the comments. And I hope you had some fun. See you next week. Happy Easter. Bye.